the communication is crucial both ways. The client might notice a trend, the firm might notice a trend that the agency has no idea about because, well, they're not a lawyer. If a new law gets passed, we're not necessarily going to know. If there's a specific zip code that just opened a shopping mall and it's trying to become a shopping district, well, that might be great to target for slip and fall cases, but that's currently not within your targeting for either your SEO or your PPC strategy. We need to be aware of that because we're not checking the local news to see, what new construction has been happening in your area for the past couple of years. So when it comes to trends, it's communication back and forth.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by ConsultWebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that wears those funny paper hats. Not for us, but for you. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in legal marketing and law firm development. I am your host, Jake Sanders, and he's Paul Julius. Paul, are we going to see the return of those funny hats?
Like for you and me, or for like everyone in general? Like, is there going to be a funny hat normalcy that we're going to get back to? Is that what you're asking?
I think that it's a health thing, and that you're going to be seeing a lot more funny little paper hats. And people having fun finally with their paper hats. Not being embarrassed only wearing them once on Christmas.
Definitely. Well, and I mean, we could, there's opportunities here. I mean, you could have like a random hat dispenser that you could just pull one out,
And it has bells on it, so we can hear you coming, you leper.
Hey.
Look, before your thumb falls off again, tell people what's in store for them.
On the show today, we're talking digital marketing and ROI. First, with an article from ConsultWebs.com. Who are those guys? And then we talk to Jared Spiewak of Blue Dog Media. And then we provide truly exceptional value for our listeners with 5 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The Hot Take Buffet today is from ConsultWebs.com, written by a guy, Jake Sanders. You may know him. It's titled Measuring Marketing ROI in Your Law Firm. Marketing and advertising for law firms is expensive, but how many law firms are tracking their return on investment, or ROI? How many law firms are making marketing decisions based on their feelings rather than the numbers? Oft cited metric here, 60% in our informal Twitter poll of law firms just not even measuring cost per click, cost per lead. We bemoan the state of measurement. We know it's bad, but maybe there's a reason why folks don't look. And I think maybe my hot take is, please read this article. It shows you exactly how to measure ROI, what steps you need to do, how you need to go about it from the beginning. Like Jared Spiewak talks later in our interview, from first click to lifetime value, all the way in. It's right here in our blog. It's later in the interview with Jared. And I think it's sort of revolves around this idea of I paid for it, so it should just work. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the reason why people don't do ROI, it's 60%. This is informal. In the Clio thing, 90%. A lot of people aren't. A lot of people just pay and just go their way. Why do they do that? I think my hot take is a set it and forget it mentality won't help you in reality. So if you're marketing and you're just thinking you can throw some money at it and then that's it, it's not a wind-up toy. I think business, this stuff that you need to focus on, you really have to be focusing in, and the only way to do it is figure out the measurements and how it all is powered. Because without the ROI, I think you'll just continue to maybe think, oh, this isn't working. And you'll just get mad at the, pinball machine of marketing. You know what I mean? Like, that's my hot take is don't think that this is a set it and forget it thing. A lot of our apps are just one-way things. You just log in once and just do it once. This is not that thing. This is a very, you have to stay up on it, and it's kind of annoying. So I could see why y'all don't want to do it. But when you do, amazing stuff happens, and Jared gets into it later, can unpack it all. But Paul, my hot take, that's what it is. I think people just want to set it and forget it. They think it's like a dishwasher. Marketing is a dishwasher. Just wash my dishes.
Yeah, well, I think all great points. And we get a little savage on this later. And I don't want to, smack people over the head too hard. I think a lot of folks, for some reason, it seems like marketing gets separated from general business goals, because you wouldn't go into a business not expecting some kind of return. You wouldn't go into business. You wouldn't go to work every day, especially if you're, you're running it. It's your show. It's your shop. If you're like, well, I don't know why I'm doing this. Maybe there'll be some money left over that I can have. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems really weird to me to be like, yeah, I need to, get more clients and, boost my firm's visibility and, blah, 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 without ever thinking like, okay, well, what do I expect out of this? And I think that's, to me, one of the biggest points out of everything here, is it's part of what it's going to help you meet your goals, but you need to break it down into things that you can measure. And your marketing is no different. If look, I need 3 cases a month, 5 cases a month. I mean, depending on whatever, 8 cases, whatever your different, it's different for different practice areas or whatever. It's the same thing with ROI. Like, realistically, how do you even know if you're spending too much, not enough, where you should be spending, maybe where there's opportunities, if you're not, having some kind of it on a fundamental level, like a hypothesis, just if I do this, I expect this, and I will measure it this way. And, the result of those measurements should be, A, B, or C.
Yeah, but nobody wants to do that, because that's like, everyone's like, oh, Benjamin Franklin, that's so cool. You tied a kite to the key, and I don't even know how you did it, but you discovered electricity. And I think
that was pretty much it, really.
Well,
just
but
tied a key to a
they
kite.
only focus on the eureka moments. They only focus on the shocking results. They only focus on the, oh my gosh, marketing can get you this. 10 of this will get you 12 of this. And you're taken in by the money, and you say, well, I'll try my hand at this. But you don't get it. It's not a gambling, like, this isn't just gambling. I think once you find out there's a rhythm to the casino, you start seeing gambling as different. There's strategy, there's tactics, but you may be getting taken at the same time. I think a lot of people are like, oh, why don't you just think more scientifically about it? No one thinks like it just doesn't come naturally to people. And even when you're paying for it, man, I mean, I've talked to people who are spending millions of dollars on marketing, and they don't really think about it. I don't know. It feels weird. It feels weird to me and you. But there are people with money in the game, and they don't really, they're kind of cool with not knowing. They can feel it come back. They know that the general trend is going upwards, so they pay more. But how do you get there without knowing? Like, without a windsock or a thermometer, how would you ever be prepared for the weather? I mean, I'm with you. I hear what you're saying. You need to be scientific. Why don't people do that? Because they only want eureka moments, easy fixes, in it and win it, done it. And, I didn't have to think about it. It was great. I just set it and forget it. And, Jared talks later. Google is one of these things that you can use now for digital marketing. You just walk in there and let them set up your campaigns. You're going to get taken like nobody's business. Their job is to make sure clicks happen their job is to not sure. Their job isn't to make sure. Oh shit. Their job is to make sure clicks happen. Their job isn't to make sure the right clicks happen. That's where marketing comes into. That's where measuring comes into. You say, well, I got a ton of calls, but none of them turned into cases. Well, then that didn't work, did it? But if the phone's ringing off the hook and you don't know what's happening, you say, we're busy today. It could be Amtrak calling. It could be, you know what I mean?
Very true.
Anyway, shocking discoveries coming up. You won't believe what Jared Spiewak and us talk about. Dude is young, brilliant, smart marketer, keeps ROI at the center of his marketing advice, and it's a great interview. And so that's coming up. Tie your kite to this episode and get a key going because you're about to get electrified.
Let's go.
Lawson continues. But first, a word from our sponsor.
The internet can be a cold and unforgiving place. Every day, thousands of law firm websites go unvisited and unfairly labeled as worthless due to the inattention or misguided attempts at do-it-yourself marketing by their owners. Poor optimization and bad design principles have left these sites unable to realize the full potential of the digital landscape they're forced to exist in, and they're now trapped on page 3 of the search results in an endless cycle of bad management, leading to poor results, leading to disillusionment and loss. There's hope for these neglected websites in the form of a digital marketing company focused exclusively on law firms. Since 1999, ConsultWebs has helped hundreds of lawyers connect to thousands of clients across the country using sound marketing principles based off an exhaustive track record of marketing campaigns that have already proven to be successful. If your website is underperforming, call ConsultWebs at 800-872-6590 and get the clicks it so desperately needs. Please don't let another day full of unvisited pages go by. Take that step and call today for them.
And now, for a Lawson interview.
Jared Spiewak is founder and lead strategist at Blue Dog Media, a digital marketing agency that helps service businesses make money and generate revenue through online marketing strategy and execution. Jared works with law firms to study their marketplace, unique advantages and disadvantages, and competition in order to create a custom strategy that's designed to generate an ROI and meet goals. Jared, welcome to Lawsome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. So give us the pitch. What's Blue Dog Media? Like, who do you help? Give us your elevator pitch.
Well, I would say, of course, if you're not working with us, then I don't think you're really doing marketing. I'm just kidding. So
humble.
Yeah, that is what I'm all about. I'm all about being humble. I don't want to brag, but I've been knighted by the Queen of England.
Right, I know.
As the
I should have said Sir Jared.
Sir Digital.
So in all seriousness, we are a boutique marketing agency. What that means is that we only work with about a handful of clients at a time. The reason why we do that is so that we can provide a more high-touch approach, just because my background with working from more volume-based agencies just wasn't my thing personally. Like you said, about 50-60% of our client base are law firms. The way that we help law firms make more money, generate more cases, is through SEM, which for anyone that isn't aware, that's mainly Google ads, running ads on Google's platform, and increasing a website's organic visibility to drive traffic and leads through SEO.
When it comes to digital marketing, there are many different facets. A lot of people are like, we got to get on TikTok, but interestingly enough, it's one of the most priciest verticals as far as digital marketing is concerned. And then come in the acronyms, your SEO, your PPC, your SEM. When it comes to like approaching clients and helping them just kind of gather all of the places they could possibly be, all the options, how do you help, them just establish like a guideline for balancing a budget and just approaching digital marketing?
Yeah, so you're 100% correct that when it comes to search, it is incredibly expensive. I mean, granted, when it comes to legal marketing, it tends to be expensive. In general, search has been around for a while. It's very established. There's a lot of competition. And so coming up with a reasonable budget that's, one, going to actually have a chance of driving results, and two, something where someone's actually going to want to help you, assuming that you're not doing it in-house. Because if you have a super small budget, the reality is just no one's going to be able to help you, because you have to consider other people's profit margins. So the first step in my mind is sitting down with somebody that actually knows the ins and outs of that strategy to actually help you figure out what you need in terms of a budget to actually reach that goal. That's one of the first things that we always do, because if you go into a call and you're like, hey, what is your budget? Like, what do you want to spend on this? Oftentimes it's, I have no idea. Like, what is it going to cost me? And so it's very hard to preemptively try to either do this yourself, have your marketing person do this, or outsource it to a freelancer or an agency with a set budget in mind if you really don't have any idea what it's going to cost you in the first place. So what I generally recommend for people is figure out what can you afford, right? If you can't afford, $1 million house, then you're not going to go to a real estate agent and be like, hey, here's everything that I want. You want to know what your budget is. So figure out what's the max that you can go, and then talk with somebody about, okay, what is that actually going to cost me, and see if that matches. Because the reality might be that maybe it's just not a right fit for you. Not everybody, there's only so much real estate within the ad spaces and the organic placements that not everybody can obtain that. So figure out what is the most that we can put in. Let's talk with someone to figure out, rather than just a ballpark. Like, don't just, someone might ballpark it for you, but get a little bit more defined than that. It's usually going to require some work having to be done to actually figure out a good number. What I mean by that is, when it comes to things like Google Ads, we can take inferences on what the estimated cost per click, or how much it's going to cost you per click, is based on third-party tools or even Google's first-party tool. And we can use that, and we estimate what the conversion rate is going to be. That can give you a pretty good idea on how much is it going to cost per lead. If you know your numbers in terms of how many leads it takes you to get a case, then you can estimate how much it's going to cost you to get a case. If you know what the profit margin in your firm is, you can bring it all the way from cost per click to ROI. And you can look at essentially a matrix of that and go, okay, if we put in this is what we'll get. And you kind of find that happy medium between what's realistic to achieve and then what kind of budget is needed to obtain that. I spoke recently with an injury firm that was in a very, very competitive market. They wanted to run ads, and the reality was, if they wanted to run ads with a budget that would allow them to generate results and allow for tests to be run within a reasonable amount of time, which I'll get into in a second, they would have to invest about $15,000 a month into ads. Now, what I mean by that is, even though the cost per click in that area is about $100, $150, and so yes, you could run with $100, $150 a month, get one click a month. It's not going to do a whole lot for you.
It's a nice click. Oh, did the click come in? No, not yet, sir. Okay, well, keep an eye out.
What you need to have is a budget that allows you to not only run ads and generate clicks, but also, if something is going wrong, if something is too expensive, if something just isn't generating the volume that you need to be able to collect enough data to actually run tests. And depending on the market, as a general ballpark, I tell people that's 4 to 5 clicks a day ideally will generate enough that over the course of a decent period of time, depending on what you're testing, depends on how long that would be, you'd be able to get enough data to actually make inferences. So let's say, to be specific here, you have your ads running. You have 2 ads. One of them, they're just, the click-through rate or the percentage of people clicking is just super low. Like, nobody's interacting with these ads, and you need to figure out why. And so in order to do that, what you'd have to do is you'd have to create a new ad to test it against the old ones to see, is this new ad going to outperform the old one that wasn't working? Now, it's going to take you time to collect data. You have to get clicks against both ads to see. Now, if that's going to take you, let's say, 2 months to get that data, well, what happens is, let's say the first attempt you make isn't the winner. You write another ad, it's just not performing better than the original one that already was wasn't working well, or it's just performing the same. So then you have to run another test, and that's another 2 months. So you're 4 months in, and this one issue still isn't solved. And that's what I mean by having enough budget to actually run tests, because otherwise you're just kind of you're putting up money. Yes, you can put up less money, but if something doesn't work, you're going to be in for the long haul of something not working, where, okay, great, 6 months from now, we'll figure out if this ad is going to be the right ad for us. And if not, well, maybe 3 years from now, we'll finally figure out what ad is the right one for us.
Wait, so when you sit down with lawyers, are they a bit kind of like wide-eyed when you tell them about what it really takes? This minimum budget isn't really discussed.
Smaller firms generally, yes, because like you said, a lot of people are going in expecting, okay, great, here's what I'm willing to pay. The agency saying, okay, great, we'll run ads for that and just see what happens. But
right, exactly.
But we sit down with them. We have a Google Sheet document that we just go through, and we input the data. They can see it clearly. And so there is a bit of shock generally, just because the expectations aren't always necessarily realistic from what they expected it to be. But typically what I'll hear is, even if it's, hey, this isn't right for us, is, like, thank you for your candor, thank you for, being honest with me. And that makes me a lot more happy than, hey, great, thanks for giving me $2,000. And I know ahead of time that this won't work.
Right. Oh, man.
So, I mean, do you kind of think, I think Google sometimes sets us up, as agencies to have to climb that hill almost every time, because, it's so, anyone can do it. You can get in. In fact, we have all these automations, just set up and put your credit card number in there, and
here's $50.
Running.
Here's $50 free dollars.
Yeah, exactly. And when you really get down to it, especially like with, personal injury, you're looking at, it's one of the most competitive verticals with easily some of the most expensive keywords. Every single report I see, $50 credit is going to be 1/3 of a click in a lot of markets. You know what I mean? So it's kind of tough to sit there and explain to someone like, okay, well, not only do we have to test creative and see if that works, but we need to keep you competitive. If you're in an area that has like Morgan and Morgan, you get ready to spend some money, because they're going to spend some money too. What I'm kind of getting at is, like, there's a lot of different pieces here, and I don't know that I always feel like Google has my back. And they're, on the one hand, they're like, we'll help you set it up. It's totally cheap. Get in here. And then we sit down and say, hey, actually, based on X, Y, and Z, like you said, I mean, we can run these numbers from click-through rate, these percentages, your conversion rate, number of, calls to a case. We could run the numbers all the way back. Google doesn't do that.
So I wouldn't necessarily say we're necessarily running into a direct issue as more of a situation of somebody going in believing that Google has their best interest, so they allow Google to set up their campaign, and then kind of brought in after because they're like, hey, this isn't working. Why isn't it working?
There you go.
And sometimes, like, the fundamentals just aren't there. Now, the reason being is kind of going to one of your earlier points is what I'll ask you this is, have you ever worked in a car manufacturing plant? These manufacturing facilities exist, and there is a lot of automation within them. They have robots doing a lot of the work. Okay, if you've never worked in there, are you going to do a very good job without any sort of training or experience, even though there's all these robots in there putting things together? Probably not. In fact, it's probably pretty dangerous for you to be doing that too. You could probably hurt yourself pretty easily. So just because there are automations in place and that there are certain areas that can be simplified doesn't mean that that it's foolproof, if you will. So one of the big issues is just assuming that the automations will do everything for you. This is something that I'm really passionate about. I put it in a lot of automations within my own business. And there's good automations, bad automations. There's ways to use it correctly and ways to use it poorly. But kind of when it comes to Google, kind of bringing it back to there, is their incentive is to make money. They make money when you get clicks on ads. So all they really need to do is make sure that you get clicks. They're not law firm marketing experts. They're someone who is their KPIs. They're most often third-party contractors, unless you are a premier partner where you actually have an actual Google employee that you're actually able to reach out to, which you have to be spending anywhere between like $100,000 and $1 million a month to be eligible to get it, not even definitively get it. And so you have these people who are third-party contractors that were given basic SOPs, and their metrics internally are probably how many contacts can they talk to in a day and how quickly can they solve, quote unquote, solve somebody's problem. So their incentive is to basically churn it out, get you in, solve your problem as fast as possible, move on to the next person. And they're probably working on hundreds of different accounts per day, and their incentive is to just make sure you get clicks. So the incentive just isn't there. The skill set generally isn't there. Their KPIs aren't to make you more money. It's to get you to stop talking to them as fast as possible. Whereas if you're working with an agency,
Totally.
the ROI is what you're after.
Yeah,
Well said.
right.
Well said. So to veer over to a different set of initials here, let's talk about SEO a little bit. I know you mentioned SEM, but we all of us marketers sort of keep our hands in the various parts of Google stuff. And a lot of the argument for SEM is kind of an argument against SEO. So what do you think about SEO? Do you feel like every algorithm and update, Google is making SEO harder? And to kind of tag on to that, is it because of what you just talked about? Because they want those ad clicks?
So with most things like SEO, I'll have to give a classic. It depends. Now, so about 75% of our revenue comes in from SEO. That's I've been doing SEO for much longer than I've been working on Google Ads accounts. And so I've seen tons and tons of different updates. I've worked on tons and tons of different websites. And when it comes to, is it getting harder? I think the answer is both yes and no. For some people, it is getting much harder. For other people, it's not nearly as difficult. There are a couple of reasons why. Is one, the overall cost to get into the game of SEO is increasing. The reason being is that the way that I like to explain it to people is think of SEO as a racetrack with an infinite amount of laps. Your competitor is 200 laps ahead of you, and they're driving 50 miles an hour. You're driving 30 miles an hour. If you continue to drive, months go by, time goes by, not only are you behind them still, but you're getting further and further behind them. So it's getting more and more expensive to compete against companies that have historically invested in quality SEO and have been continuing to rise year over year. Now, of course, algorithm updates can happen. They can get slashed or whatever may happen. But in a general sense, companies that have invested for a long period of time have a much larger advantage. So somebody who's coming into the market now who's new, for competitive markets, has a much more difficult time gaining market share for any of the main types of terms that you would want to go after, like your car accident lawyer, slip and fall, your DUI lawyer, your unemployment lawyer, whatever type of law firm that you have. So that's one thing, is that it's getting more expensive and more firms are investing in it. As marketing channels go on, they become more and more mature and more saturated. So you go back 10, 15 years, SEO is okay. There's maybe a couple people kind of investing it, maybe spending a little bit of money in it because they heard about it once and they're like, okay, great, I'll give somebody like $200. We'll see what happens. But now everybody's aware of it. Everybody knows the value in it. We have so many tools to kind of predict and show what the potential value of it is. Mm-hmm. And so for a lot of firms, if you look at certain numbers and you're like, okay, there's $5 million a year worth of cases that are obtainable within this particular market that you're in, and if okay, great, off of that you'll profit, let's say $1.5 million. Well, how much would you be willing to pay to make $1.5 million? Some people would say $1.4 million, right? Other people would say $500,000. So there are firms that are investing heavily in it that are larger firms because they want volume, which is making it more and more challenging. And the other thing that's making it more and more challenging is that the market is small, meaning that when it comes to local SEO, when you're targeting a specific geographic market, the amount of variability in the amount of search terms, the things that people type into Google, is fairly limited. And if you're trying to do things that other kind of national companies are able to do, which is find low-hanging fruit, essentially, it's a lot harder to do that in these markets more often than not. And where other companies gain a lot of market share when you're competing against, David versus Goliath situation, you'll tend to find that they do a lot better on content and content marketing and driving traffic through there, which then leads from top of funnel to middle of funnel. Getting a little bit technical here. But it's a lot harder to do that with a local geographic market, because when you're trying to target people that are searching nationally, but of that, maybe you're in the total population of the U.S. that you service, let's say 1.5%, you can generate tens of thousands of visitors, and a very small fraction of those are actually within your market. So you're going after a limited amount of terms. More and more firms around you are investing in SEO and investing heavily because they know the value of it more. The cost of SEO has been increasing substantially as the companies who are offering the services are more solidified. Around 2012, there was a big influx of people entering the market. So now they're more mature companies. They're offering more. They have more employees. They have more expenses, and they're charging more. Their skills have gone up. And also, the amount of tools that we have has gone up. So our expenses have gone up. So there's just a lot happening that is increasing costs. And just so that's how it's getting harder. But for those firms that are established, that are putting up a good amount of fight within their market, or they're in a market that isn't very competitive, then for them it can be a lot easier, because there are fewer firms that they're competing with. It's just that the firms that are competing are a lot more of a competitor.
Right. Oh, totally. Yeah. And I love the racetrack metaphor. I think it's a good way to sort of abstract these concepts, because a lot of people are thinking, oh, we just need one great ad or one viral, video. And a lot of people want to take advantage of new trends, but they sort of ignore this longer term focus. How do you help your clients specifically, without abandoning the core focus of like SEO growth, and how do you help identify new trends or new technical, just like what you're saying, the new dashboards coming out, or this new automation's coming out? How do you help them identify and pivot digital marketing without abandoning those longer term goals?
So when it comes to new tactics or channels that come out, we have a good relationship with our clients, that we're often asked some of these questions, where a client might go, hey, TikTok's happening. Someone said I should get into that. What's your opinion? I'll go through, I'll give my honest opinion. We'll see what kind of my thoughts are, but I also kind of emphasize like, hey, if you want to do this, sure, but it's not our expertise, so we're not going to be handling this for you. I try to be as firm as possible with that. So we'll get some kind of that back and forth consultations, but kind of within what we're doing as well, there are also trends that pop up within the solidified, saturated markets that are really worth kind of diving into. So for example, we currently have the coronavirus situation. People are on lockdown. And so with personal injury, we're seeing a lot less car accidents happen, but we've seen an increase in police misconduct searches.
Interesting.
So for firms that have maybe just had a page talking about police misconduct or police brutality, or security guard misconduct, brutality, et cetera, there's a lot more retail stores are now also employing security guards. You have to guard the toilet paper now because people are ridiculous. So you have basically the market has shifted. Much fewer people are driving. Much fewer people are running into these situations, or running into these situations where they feel as though they have a case for this. So it's something where, for a lot of firms, it's just like that other page that they have on their site that somebody set up for them that they just approved because why not? But they never actually got anything from it, or that it was just one thing that they were also had in their ad account that got like 5 impressions a year because it just wasn't searched for that much. And all of a sudden, there's actual increases of that. So on our side, it's important or at the agency side, it's important to kind of identify, okay, this is happening. This is how we can kind of capitalize on that. But I'll also say that conversely, at the end of the day, the client is the SME, or the subject matter expert. The communication is crucial both ways. The client might notice a trend, the firm might notice a trend that the agency has no idea about because, well, they're not a lawyer. If a new law gets passed, we're not necessarily going to know. If there's a specific zip code that just opened a shopping mall and it's trying to become a shopping district, that might be great to target for slip and fall cases, but that's currently not within your targeting for either your SEO or your PPC strategy. We need to be aware of that because we're not checking the local news to see, what new construction has been happening in your area for the past couple of years. So when it comes to trends, it's communication back and forth. For us, it's a matter of keeping up to date within the marketing industry to understand, okay, what tools are happening, what new tactics have people been using or sometimes exploiting, so that we can be aware. And then also just being there for clients when kind of new channels open up, because it's not something that we will handle for them, but it is something that we're more than happy to give our advice or opinion, or to kind of refer them to someone who is an expert at that would probably do a much better job than we would.
Ooh, gangster. Ooh, Jared.
Nice.
I love it, man. Excellent.
Indeed. All right. So talking about communication, let's do a little communicating right now. If you had one piece of advice to someone listening right now, something they could start doing today, one thing they could do with their digital marketing, what would it be?
Sure. So my one thing is, in order to do this one thing, it's going to require you to do multiple things. So I'm going to have to kind of bend the rules here a little bit. And that one thing is track everything from click to lifetime value. The reason being is that data is everything. Most people nowadays will have basic conversion tracking through phone calls and form fills. That's great. That's excellent. Baffling to me when people have worked with sometimes a marketing agency or someone who's multiple and they still don't have basic conversion tracking set up. That's always a little frightening. But you want to track clicks. You want to track what of those clicks are coming in from conversions, but also the source of those conversions. So for example, we use CallRail, DNI on CallRail, dynamic number insertion. That's amazing. Tracking forms, tracking live chats, basically any way that somebody can contact you, you should be tracking that. Now that can be done on the marketing agency side of things. Now that's where most people stop. Now the most important thing after that is tracking also, okay, great. Of these phone calls, you should be tracking who called in some sort of CRM case management system. Not all case management systems will allow you to do both the CRM and the non-client functions. Speaking kind of unintelligibly about that, but I've heard that from a lot of clients beforehand. So basically you need to be tracking, okay, who's calling? Who are they? Do they have a case? Yes or no? What type of case do they have? Some firms also like to track if what I've heard is bread and butter clients. If it's like a certain type of case that they're really, really after, they'll track that as well. But you need to be tracking, okay, great, we got this many leads. Which percentage of our leads are qualified? What's not qualified? What types of leads are we getting? What percentage of our leads are turning into cases? And you can tie that back to, because you have that all in a database. Okay, great, we got 20 cases this month. How many came from PPC? How many came from SEO? How many came from referrals? What referrals did it come from? And from there, you should also be tracking how much money you made from all these cases. Because at the end of the day, you are a business. A law firm is a business. You own the firm. You are a business owner, and this is the type of stuff you need to be doing from a business perspective, from a marketing perspective, from an advertising perspective, etc. So you can track it at the end of the day for the actual ROI. What channels are working? What channels are not working? Because at the end of the day, yes, conversions matter, but not really. If you need to be tracking the ROI. If you're a personal injury lawyer, you paid somebody $5,000 last month to do whatever it is for you, and they generated one case, you might not be happy. But if that case was worth $10 million, that just paid for quite a bit of your marketing spend for the near future. You can basically tie it back to, what is this actually worth? What are our clients actually worth? And if you, let's say, are a type of attorney that works on retainer models, you might identify, okay, great, our average client will give us $2,000 a month on retainer for whatever type of lawyer you are. On average, we retain them for about 12 months. So that's $24,000. We have a 20% profit margin. So that would be $4,800 in profit if my math is correct. And then you can kind of work through that. You can kind of go back to your marketing spend, and that can determine what is a realistic cost per case, what is a realistic cost per click. Because if you actually optimize all that, you realize, and I know I'm very long-winded here, but if you actually realize that, okay, we're our intake team is converting 30% of phone calls into cases. Well, if we increase that to 40%, here's what effect it will have on our ROI. And if we get that, then we can actually pay more per click, more than our competitors are able to pay while still being profitable. And we can do that and still be profitable. And that's some of the ways that you can absolutely dominate a market, is actually looking at that, actually looking at things from clicks to LTV or lifetime value, and improving every aspect of it, because that just the more money the business makes, the more money the firm makes, the more you can invest in marketing, the more value your marketing has. And that's something that honestly no firm that I've ever talked to has completely done that end to end.
Wait, that last part, Jared, say it again. No firm you've ever talked to
has ever tracked from click to LTV. Yep.
real. And that squares with everything Paul and I, the Clio most recent survey that went out to lawyers, it was something like 92 or 94% had no grasp on cost per click, cost per lead in their firm.
Yeah. Well, and just, I mean,
90%?
dude, go back to your automotive production plant. You think those guys don't know how long a part takes to manufacture, how long it takes to move thing from one machine to another, and they know just like you were saying, if we can save 6 seconds per part, that's $200,000 a year.
Forget it. And without
You
the
know what I'm
numbers,
saying?
and without the numbers, man, it's just not there. But
Yep.
that is so fantastic. Jared, bro, wonderful. How can people find more about Blue Dog Media and find you on the internet?
Yeah, so if you want to check out our website, it is teambluedog.com. Feel free to check out the content that's on there in blog post format. A lot of those blog posts have YouTube videos, which you'll be able to connect from there. My personal website, just jaredsbiak.com, which I mostly just talk BS. So feel free to reach out, check out content. I'm not looking to sell anybody anything. If you're like, hey, you don't seem like a complete idiot, you want to jump on a phone call, cool. If not, then hope you enjoy what you read on the sites.
5 questions we ask everyone.
What was the last book you read?
I should have. What is the name? It is, was that the last one? Is that the second to last one? I might be lying to you guys here, but one of the 2 last books that I read was Profit First by, let me grab his name. I can't pronounce that. My last name, his first name's Mike. So Profit First by Mike something. So that was that was actually a really, really great book that goes over basically cash flow management. I completely revamped our cash flow system with the agency. Pretty much any service-based business is a cash flow business. Any service-based service. I totally screwed that up. Anyways, so basically it's a different way of looking at the money that comes into the business versus the money that goes out. I completely revamped our systems during the holiday season of this past year. And now it's just made it a lot more clear as to what we can afford, what we not afford. By basically, we had like 3 bank accounts beforehand, just normal, like here's for tax, here's what's coming in, here's like savings. And now we have like 6 or 7 that's more set up for, okay, here's specifically for payroll, here's specifically for distributions, here's for a 3-month cash reserve. So even if we lost all of our clients today, at the very minimum, we'd be able to survive for 3 months if we have no other money in any other bank account. So it just made it a lot more confident. And so we just go into kind of every month knowing what our numbers are, and we don't have to be afraid if a client leaves for whatever reason, because we have cash to be fine. Or if we want to invest in hiring someone or invest into more marketing strategies, we can see exactly how much money that we have that we can safely spend without running into potential issues long term. So that was probably one of the most amazing and helpful books that I've read in a long time. I don't follow exactly what he did to a T. His whole thing was about keeping it simple, and I kind of simplified what he had based on what would work best for me, kind of tweaked around with it for about 2-3 months. But yeah, that's been really, really amazing for us.
Great. Nice. All right. Number 2, what is your favorite place?
Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Wow. Okay.
So I've gone to Chiang Mai a couple of times. Was going to go this year, but everything's been canceled due to the coronavirus. But basically, there is every year there is a Chiang Mai is a large digital nomad hub, meaning that there is essentially a lot of non-Thai people living in this city. So it's a very westernized location, which is kind of weird to go there because you go like 5 miles outside the town. It's a very different situation that you're in. But there's a lot of people that are digital nomads who do what we do. There are so many marketers there. There are so many drop shippers, e-commerce people, SaaS people, SEOs, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's really just you can go there, and I can just be sitting in a cafe and I'll be like, oh, someone just walked by. I've actually read his blog posts, and because just there's so many people there in our industry, just there all the time. And every year there's a conference. It's put on by a guy called Mac Diggity, the Chiang Mai SEO conference. I've gone to that every year that it's been there. He also puts on a mastermind that I've gone to past 2 years. For that, I was one of the lead-up speakers for one of the years, which is pretty cool to to be able to do. But going to Chiang Mai is just really love it there. I'm a big fan of all the food there, the sightseeing that you can do. If you want to go and hang out with tigers or elephants, you can do that. There's a lot going on there. It's a really amazing place. There's a great community of people that really do what you do. So there's so many co-working events happening where it's just like, cool, come to a co-working place, and every single person that is there is in your industry that you can then ask them questions about. And there's so much networking. So it's just a really kind of amazing place to go to for a couple weeks at a time.
Dude, nice. All right, number 3. What sites, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts do you regularly check in with?
Regularly. So something that I used to do kind of when I was still an employee of other agencies and when I was just starting off and I had a little bit more free time is I built a custom RSS feed site, and I just put in every blog site that I liked, and just any time that they released a new article, it just got added to my email inbox. So I'm keeping up on everything at some point in time. But because now my time is a lot more restrictive, I don't consume as much content as I used to be able to do. When it comes to what I do read, I keep up to date with the general news sites. So like a Search Engine Roundtable will paying any time that people are like, hey, there's a suggested update happening or whatever, just to kind of know time frames and maybe I'll check in on this one to see if it's actually anything worth looking at. So that one's good in my opinion. The Paid Search podcast is a great one for SEM that's done by Jason Rothman and well, hopefully the other one doesn't hear this podcast.
Don't worry.
And Mike, what's his name?
Guarantee it. Mike, what's it?
Sorry, bro.
Chris Schaefer. That's his name.
Okay.
So that's a great one. And just a couple of sites that friends put on that I'll check in on. But it's a lot less regular nowadays, just because I don't have nearly as much time as I wish I did. But those are the kind of the two that just kind of get added to my inbox all the time. And then just whatever people suggest, hey, this is worth reading, I just save it on what's called OneTab, which has been a lifesaver for me. It's a Chrome extension, probably on Firefox too. And excuse me. If you just grab a bunch of URLs or tabs that you have open, click the button and it saves all of them. And so every weekend I just go through and what's all the articles that people have recommended that popped up on my Facebook feed, that popped up on my email inbox because I subscribe to so much stuff. And then I just go through it on the weekend. So I'm not really partial to necessarily a couple of sources other than the ones that I've mentioned.
Nice.
I'm looking at one.
All right. Cool. Number 4. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only pick one condiment to take with you, what would it be?
Yeah.
Can it be a fancy condiment?
There's no rules here,
No fancy stuff, Jared.
Someone answered Scotch one time.
Sir Jared is worried. Sir
If you
Jared.
done a condiment, so it is.
Make it
So
fancy.
I would have to go with garlic aioli, which is just a fancy mayonnaise.
Yeah, it really is though. But that's a good one.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great answer. All right, last one, man. Number 5. After a long day or a long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
So for me, that is playing video games with generally either drinking rum and coke or some whiskey. And that is something that I've done since I was 8 is when I started gaming, and is something that I'm very passionate about, that I care a lot about, and that's very important for me to always make time for it. So that's generally what I'm doing during my nights.
Damn.
All right, so
started drinking when he's 8. Started drinking when he's 8.
I was going to ask. That wasn't so games. So PC or console, and then what do you play?
Sure. So I've historically always been an Xbox player. I've been looking at getting a PC for a while now. Just all my friends are on Xbox. So basically we're all like, well, whenever we decide to upgrade a PC, we all have to do it at the same time. Otherwise, we're just going to be very bored.
We're out.
But granted, crossplay is becoming a lot more popular, which is really nice. Mainly what I've been playing for a long time are battle royale games. Got into that with PUBG or PlayerUnknown's Battleground. Obsessed with those types of games. So right now we've been playing a lot of Warzone. Rocket League is also one that we play quite a bit of. And then personally, I'm a big fan of the Dark Souls series because I'm a glutton for punishment. So I like those as well.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsomepodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawsome.